I want you to listen to BG's story real quickly, as much as you feel like sharing. Just tell us about how you got there and the day you woke up.
It was a combination of things in terms of the day that I woke up. And it was the support of my family and friends who noticed things that I didn't even notice in terms of the abuse and what was happening, and bring it to my attention. And one of the things about when you're a victim, there are things that you don't see that others may see. The going back, the going back and forth and things like that. But it wasn't until just the education, being educated and learning about the power and control wheel.
Okay.
What are the signs and things like that. And that made me realize that I'm in an abusive relationship. And it's when you look at domestic abuse, it comes in many forms, and violence is one of it. The physical part, like, I used to say, okay, I may have been in one relationship where there was the violence, the physical violence, and then in another relationship where there was just the mental and the emotional abuse, but I didn't think it was abuse because he was not hitting
you. Right. Okay.
So it's just basically it's all about education and awareness, just educating yourself and being aware.
Now, I have a little story, but I won't share mine because I don't rehash mine a lot, but I will say this. I remember being at a place where I think I left the house with no shoes on. It was in February with one shoe and one sock or whatever. But I was just like, this is enough. This is not healthy. I would leave and come back and leave and go back. It was just, I just knew. And here's what I told myself. I would lie to myself and say, I'm not the kind of person to be on Jerry Springer. I'm Ramona. I don't belong on Maury. He hit me. That's not me, because I'll take a fine print and bust a joke in his face, I thought. And then I was in a situation where I was getting hit on or screamed at or spit on and, the whole nine. It didn't last very long, but it was a rocky, tumultuous, hellish time in my life. And I survived it. I don't talk about it a lot because, again, it's just something I just do not even want to. I think I'm ashamed of it.
That's what it is.
Yeah,
you're just so ashamed of it. You don't want, and that's how I felt all these years. How could I let that happen to me? And I was blaming myself. But you have to understand that it was not me. The onus and the responsibility has to come from the abuser.
And again, if they never admit that they have a problem, and I think to me the abuse in my situation, I think that the person I was dealing with didn't have any capacity for communication. Just didn't know how to communicate. And the worst thing you can do when you get angry, you do anything you want to when you're angry. And that is dangerous. And I found myself being quiet because I wanted to let it pass. Can you imagine me quiet? I'm never quiet. But I remember when that storm starts swelling, I would just be quiet and just kind of go somewhere like, okay, all right, okay. Because I just didn't want it to get to 10. But no matter what I did, it still would go to 10 anyway. And just, being quiet and trying to outsmart it. I'll think, if he does that, if he goes in that room, I'm going to go in this room. I was trying to figure out, if he goes in the living room, I'll go through the back window and get out. If he starts going nuts, I'll just get out of the back window. I mean, just always trying to think of a way of escape all the time. And again, just telling it makes me angry, and I'm embarrassed a little bit because, I'm so smart, savvy me. How did this happen to me? But I know it could happen to you because if it happened to me, it can happen to anybody.
I want to make a point based on something that you just said. Before you got in that relationship, we all said, what you wouldn't take before you're actually in the situation.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think it's at that point that our esteem is the highest and we have that value for ourselves. But when we get in these situations and then you are the one being knocked around and you're hiding it and so forth, that's your red flag right there. Number one, that something's going on. And number two, your value level has gone down for yourself.
You're absolutely right.
But you're also hoping that the situation will change.
Exactly.
And that's why some of us stay, because
I think that is my main reason.
It's going to change, and he's going to get better, or she's going to get better. So it's many reasons. Financial dependence,
right?
Because there's the economic abuse, the financial abuse,
right?
The psychological abuse, and also being programmed over and over and over again. And I've literally compile a list. There's like 74 phrases and things that were said to me, words and phrases that were said to me on a daily basis. So that's the psychological and the emotional abuse that I encountered, at that point. But then there's that hope and you're praying that it's going to get better. It's going to change.
I was going to stay silent. I'm just going to say this right now. I'm ready for the emails. When you start email, I'm going to be calm. But prayer, let me just say what my experience with prayer is. And this is not negative. It's just I have a different understanding now. I prayed for this person incessantly, poured oil in their shoes, went to church every single night. I mean, the whole night. When I say that joker is exactly the same person he was when he was nutting up on me. So I say this to say, I believe in prayer. I do implicitly. But I do not believe that you can, even God doesn't change people against their will.
Exactly.
I don't believe that. So if a person wants, just like an alcoholic, they have to say, I'm Ramona and I am an alcoholic. That's your first step. And I never get too deep and spooky on the radio about church because I was raised in church, but everybody isn't. So I try to keep it very, across the board. But there is a scripture that says, with the mouth, confession is made unto salvation, which means you open your mouth, you say, help me, and salvation people help you. You have to say, help me first. And so I don't think anybody, my takeaway from that, I'm not praying for nobody else unless you want to get prayed for, fine, I'll pray for you. But if you don't, that's not me, because that person is the same person.
Right.
I think all those prayers that went up for me were for me. They ended up helping me get enough together to leave. And your experience could be different, but I just don't believe that you can pray somebody different. A person. Cancer, maybe. A thing, yes, but not a person, because people have their own will.
And they have to make the decision to want to change. And you can't change that person.
No.
And that was looking back, I tried to do everything.
And we fall in love with good intentions, too. Women we are so bad with we fall in love with the potential. Mm-hmm. He has the potential to be blah, 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 but it is what it is. Not in the F Club. Once you reach over 40, you start seeing stuff exactly how it is. That joker is this, and that's what he is. Oh, bless his name on tonight. Conrad? Hi, Conrad. How are you?
Hello, ladies. How are you doing?
Hello. We're great.
Great. First of all, I would like to say it takes a lot of guts for you ladies to get on the air and express your private life. I've never met your guest, obviously, Ramona. I don't think I've ever met you personally, but just over the air. And Ramona, I want to tell you, you have nothing to be ashamed of.
Thank you.
It takes a big woman for you to be able, because see, your testimony right now is helping somebody else.
I'm trying not to be a big baby and cry about this. It is pretty painful. And BG was saying, too, you talk about it, you just don't want to.
You know what? Go ahead and cry. It's all right. Because you know what? You deserve to cry. Because you're not expected to go, first of all, toe-to-toe with some other man.
Right.
I mean, in fact, I'm divorced, and one of the major reasons is I'm out of mind. Now, I'm 6'5", about 280 pounds.
Wow.
My ex-wife was never got no bigger than 130 pounds.
Uh-huh.
Okay, but she was an orangutan.
Oh, my God.
And, again, I was raised in the church. We were raised, to respect one another, et cetera, not to put hands on a woman. I could not beat this woman because if the police came to my house, I'm going to jail once they see me and see her.
Exactly.
There would be no way that I could justify putting my hands on this lady.
You're right.
But behind closed doors, ladies, this lady was an orangutan, throwing mirrors, throwing pots and pans, knives, anything she could find, hammers, tools.
I believe
all kinds of stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? And I survived it. I said, Lord, did you get me out of this mess?
Yeah.
You know what? I will never turn back. And just imagine me. Look how big I am. You know what I'm saying? And
right.
I mean, I'm not ashamed. I used to be ashamed. I must admit, I was ashamed.
Right.
Because this is something that, it's not easy to talk about because you feel that, first of all, the person will look down on you. You be thinking, well, you're a problem. All kinds of things just go through your mind about what people would think about.
Right.
What kind of background you came from. And I know I came from a decent background where my parents would never allow that. I never see my mother and father argue. If they argued, hey, they didn't do it in front of us.
Yeah.
I'm sure they did. So I was raised in an environment that was conducive to me going into a healthy relationship with a woman.
Well, again, all of us, for whatever reason, find ourselves in these situations. And, again, nobody BG made this comment earlier. No, if there was a sign on their head that says, beware of me, I'm going to beat you in 5 years, no one would ever be involved in it. It would be very easy to detect. And with the God, all of us, our crazy buttons are on. We walk up to anybody and say, don't mess with me, I'm a nut. But it doesn't happen that way.
Not to cut you off, sweetie, but there are signs.
Well, and we just went over a great many of them.
Overlook those signs, thinking, because when I look back over my relationship, I can, my ex, and I can see how she treated her mother, how she talked to her mother. When I look back, and I thought that didn't apply to me, I was like, hey, I was young, and I thought that's between her and her mom.
Right.
And I never thought. But I think that when you're dating, and things like that, and you interact with each other, I think you can see these signs. You have to be open and honest enough in your heart to know that this something is not right. I can look at it now. I can detect those things now. But I think in any relationship, I can't say any relationship, but I'm saying in many instances, I would say that you can kind of pick up, this dominant type of thing, this overbearing type of thing, just constantly trying to keep up with you. Those telltale signs.
Absolutely. I thank you. Thank you for your call, Corey. You're fantastic, okay?
Okay,
we gotta move on
Ramona.
thank you, Conrad. I appreciate it. All right, D in Detroit, you say what? We got to move on. Hi, D.
I apologize, Ramona, if you guys have already talked about this, but thank you so much for having this subject matter.
You're welcome.
So please promise me to have a part 2 since it's so late in the game today.
Yeah, we got to squeeze it all in, but we're going to be covering this topic all month, and the ladies have events we're going to tell you about in a couple of seconds. But we'll tell you about everything we need to do to keep it going, and yes, to keep the awareness factor forefront in our community. Even all of us can agree. I think we didn't know we were in a situation that was abusive until it's too late.
Right.
And then
I appreciate it. And that's what I wanted to talk about from the man's perspective. And if you've already talked about it, I just got in my car on my way home.
Thank
How
you.
does it look like? What does it look like from the man's perspective in terms of him being abused?
This is what we're going to do. We're going to take another show and do a domestic violence segment for men because they're 15% of this pie as well. So we'll do another one on that as well, okay?
Okay.
Thank you, D. I appreciate it.
Mona.
All right. Bye-bye. We'll take one more call from Dennis before we go to Brooke, and I want to talk about your event coming up as well, BJ. Hi, Dennis.
Hey, how you doing, Ramona?
Hi.
There's a couple of things that often vex me when talking to young ladies.
Uh-huh.
I always dated older women because younger women always told me that they wanted this roughneck character.
Okay.
Which I didn't quite understand. A roughneck to me is a person who doesn't care about himself, so he's not going to care about you.
Okay.
Well, that and the fact that I've talked to a few women who says, well, you just don't understand what my relationship is like about this man putting his hands on me. I made him angry. And I'm saying if you have the ability to make a person anything, make me rich. Don't make him angry.
Yeah.
That mentality of people saying how their behavior has caused another person to lose their mind.
Yeah, but that's a part of it. That's one of the power and control cycle, and one of those these identifying factors. If you blame yourself for somebody else's abusive behavior, that is a sign you're in a bad relationship or a bad situation. So we'll continue those warning signs and signals. There are also a list of them available on our website, WCHBNewsDetroit.com. Dennis, we got to keep going. We got to go to commercial break. When we come back, we're going to let Brooke do some more of her poetry, and we're going to let BG tell us about her event that's coming up as well. Keep it right here. It's the F Club Radio Show, AM 1200 WCHB.
AM 1200 WCHB.